All right, and here we go. Yet again, episode 26, Chat with Gunner. Today, we got a good guest on the show. Matt Sexcel is going to be joining us live from his house. I'm assuming that's where he's at. You never can tell, really. But I'm assuming he's joining us from the house. And, man, I haven't had a chance to really sit down and just talk to him probably longer than 30 seconds, other than saying hi backstage in a locker room a couple times. So just wanted to get him on the show. He's pretty interesting on the old social web, and he seems fun. So I want to get him on the show and see if we can have a good conversation. Matt, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, Gunner?
Dude, so I don't know you that well. I think we've been on a...
This is literally the longest we've ever spoken.
Yeah, we just broke a record, PR right now, of the longest conversation we've ever had. So... correct me if I'm wrong. I think the last time I saw you was at the first action show.
That sounds about right.
And dude, and to be honest with you, like our paths just never crossed, hardly ever in wrestling.
You were really kind of breaking it big when I was in the Northeast, and then when I moved back, you were winding down. So yeah, just never really crossed. Even though I knew of you and I liked the work that I saw of yours, and it seemed like we were always very cordial. It just never happened we ever interacted.
Yeah, man. So I'm excited to get you on here and just kind of learn about you a little bit, because you're funny, man. You're funny and you're inspiring at the same time. If people are not taking that
sort of skill set, so
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if people are not seeing that, they should, especially the guys that are in Georgia. Just kind of, I guess, starting out, or even guys that have been in it for a while and trying to figure out what their path is going to be. Dude, you're killing it. I think you're doing a great job.
It took me a while. It'll be 18 years next month that I've actually been in the wrestling biz, and it honestly started kind of clicking when I was about 10 years in, and then it really started clicking only about 3 or 4 years ago,
Wow.
when I kind of figured out what the niche market was that I could do, and how I could best serve the wrestling community and best get over and best make the most money at the end of the day.
So 18 years, what got you into the business?
I was a fan of the theatrical bullshit gaga. Go figure, watching the way I work in the ring.
Yeah.
I was a humongous fan as a kid. My grandfather watched it. I hated it, though, as a young kid. I was an avid baseball fan and comic book fan before that, but really kind of got into it with the NWO. I was like, okay, this is cool. They're bad guys and they're hip.
Yeah.
And really started enjoying that. And when I was in high school, read Mick Foley's book, the first one. And that was the first time I was like, okay, you can be reasonably intelligent and actually do this. And so I started seeking out pro wrestling schools and found that Dory Funk Jr. ran a team camp. So yeah. At 15, I actually went down there and started my training in Ocala, Florida.
Hey, how old are you?
33.
Okay, so you're a little bit older than I am. So you got into it pretty young.
Yeah, I started right before my 16th birthday.
Wow. That's really cool, dude. So now where are you from?
Originally from Northeast Georgia, Athens, Georgia area, Jefferson, Georgia to be technical, but I do currently live in Atlanta, or Matlanta, of course.
We'll talk about that too, man, for sure. Hey, so where was that camp at? The fun
that
camp?
was in Ocala, Florida. So I was actually, it was very cool that the early days of being able to search wrestling schools and stuff on the internet, found that. And lucky enough that my mom was cool with driving me down there since I was 15 and doing my first camp down there. And enrolling quarters and working an after-school job and stuff to make sure that I had the money to pay for wrestling camp.
Was that like a weekend camp or like?
It was like a week-long camp, just for teens, and then I went back down for an adult camp that they did a couple other times, and decided, okay, this is something I want to be able to pursue and do over and over again, and be able to actually do it on a consistent weekly basis. And actually met a bunch of guys from NWA Wildside when I was down at Dory's school. And that's how I got started up there and trained by Todd Sexton and Rick Michaels, and amongst others.
Yes. Okay. So some of my boys right there. Okay. So then you went up to the Northeast, you said?
Yeah. So, that was flash forward, 12, 13 years in my career.
Okay. So let's back up. So you met the guys from Wildside, you met Todd, and you met Rick.
Yeah. I met the guys from Wildside. A couple of the guys that I met down at Dory School, I met Azrael and Slim J and Murder One and Rain Man. And they're like, oh shit, you live in Northeast Georgia. There's actually a school up in Cornelia. So I trained there, and and started working there on their Friday shows at the time, which were kind of their developmental.
NCW? Was, was that?
Before NCW.
Wow.
Well, before the new NCW.
Yeah.
It was the NWA Wildside Friday Night franchise is what they called it.
Okay, that's cool.
So yeah, that was kind of where I cut my teeth and started working there in South Carolina, North Carolina, all around the Southeast.
So you started out in the Landmark Arena.
I did.
Now, was AJ there when you was there, or was that a little bit after?
So I started training kind of right the time that TNA came into existence. So AJ would come in and like bump around with us and stuff. I go, hey, I got to work on this new move and things like that. So he was on the tail end of his wild side days and starting to obviously go to that path of superstardom he's on now.
Yeah, man. I mean, to have one of the Undertaker's, or to have the Undertaker's last match, that's a storybook ending right there in itself. Dude, I couldn't even imagine being in the ring with him, more or less. Either one of the guys, honestly. But, okay, so let's say you've been in the business for 3, 4, 5 years. How are you feeling about it at this point? Because it's a different era back then. It's not 2020.
It's crazy to think, that was a different era, and it really was. I was kind of one of those young shithead kids for the first few years where I worked hard, but at the same time, I kind of felt stuff was owed to me. I was that guy thinking that, hey, I'm going to get into this and be able to make a living off of it, and I'm going to go to WWE, and that's the goal, main event WrestleMania. And meanwhile, you're wearing Under Armour shirt and shitty tights.
Yeah.
So, at least I had gear, unlike a lot of guys.
Right.
But, I was digging it. I was still very much into it. I wasn't going through a salty and bitter phase yet. But by the time I was 17, I was on the road every weekend. So I was, senior year of high school, going to class Monday through Friday, wrestling Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then doing it all over again.
Wow, that's different. That's a different path for sure. Especially, like, I'm trying to compare it to, like, my experiences. So, like, I came straight out of college. So I couldn't imagine being in the wrestling business as a 17, 18 years old, being around some of these guys, So
it was pretty cool because, like, in an odd way, it kept me out of trouble.
Yeah.
Like, when I was in college, I went to the University of Georgia, and so if I was traveling, the bars closed at 2. So, I got home from a show, and I'm like, well, I guess I can't go out. So I always tell people, I didn't drink and didn't go and party and stuff in college, which always throws people off when they see how I act after shows now.
Yeah. So you graduated high school and you went to University of Georgia?
I did. Yeah, I'm a Bulldog.
Bulldogs. That's sweet, man. So how did you like that?
I loved it. I loved the experience. As I look back, the whole time that I was there, I didn't really get into the college experience. Like I said, I didn't go out, I didn't party, didn't do anything. It was literally, I'm here to get a degree, show up, and get out of here and try to go on to the next thing. So on top of that, was working like 30, 35 hours a week and wrestling 2, 3, 4 times a week.
Yeah, man, grinding. That I'm learning so much right now about you, and I've already, dude. I appreciate you so much more already. Just trust me.
I appreciate that. So no, I understand that as with your background. Yeah, you understand the grind definitely.
Yes.
So it was a different kind of collegiate athlete.
Yeah, well, just a different kind of grind, but yeah, I mean, it's basically the same thing. You don't have any time. You got to pick when you want to do things for yourself, and the majority you're trying to grind the axe and try to stay on the war path of like achieving a goal. And that's pretty much what you had set for yourself. You had a goal for professional wrestling. So let's kind of fast forward. You come out of Georgia. You're still doing it. Are you still in the Georgia southeast area at that time?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm still I come out of there with my degree. My degree was health and physical education, and then I kept adding teaching subject areas to my certificate. On top of that, working in the fitness field, and of course still wrestling. That was always the goal. It was to work, to have that backup plan, because I knew from the get-go I wanted to make sure I had the backup plan, because the idea and the concept of making it is so slim to none.
Right.
It's like, even if you think about if you want to be a Major League Baseball player, there's 750 spots in the majors plus minors and all that good stuff, and there's so fewer spots in wrestling. So I tried to always be smart about it even from the get-go.
Yeah, when I was in college, it's funny you mentioned that. When I was in college, I developed a relationship with the Ultimate Warrior. I don't know if you've heard the story, but somehow or another we ended up talking because I wore the face paint, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, he asked me one day, he goes, so do you see yourself being in the NFL? And I was like, I'm a realist. I I'm okay, but I don't see myself going to the NFL. Pretty injury prone, blah blah blah. And he goes, well, what about professional wrestling? And I was like, listen, bro, I'm a realist. So there's less spots in professional wrestling than there is in the NFL. I mean, at least there's 50-something guys on a roster in the NFL with a practice squad. There, there's like 80 guys on the WWE roster. That's really hard to make that. So I had the same perception you did. And I think a lot of guys don't have that perception these days.
No, a lot of guys kind of, it's rose-colored glasses a little bit. And you go into it thinking, it's going to be really easy to make, or especially the people that come out of another sport and it's not their lifelong passion to be a professional wrestler. It's the backup plan, and that can be difficult as well too, because you think it should be easier.
Yeah,
and it's not.
I saw myself kind of falling for that trap a little bit at the beginning, and then I respected it though, probably more so than some of these other guys that like say they come from the NFL or like whatever they come from. I think they think it's a lot easier because it's.
Did you grow up a fan though?
Grew up a fan. So when I was 6 years old,
because you weren't one of those guys coming in and going, "Hey, I know nothing about it." It's just,
yeah, dude, it's okay. So I grew up 6 years old, loving the product. That was the video games I played growing up, and I mean, you're there, so we're playing the best video games. We're playing No Mercy and WCW and NWO Revenge, so we know all the moves because you had to know the moves to be able to play the game.
Right,
so
you're practicing them on siblings and friends in the backyard.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a life-size pillow of a human in the house, I was power bombing it, body slamming it. I was, humming the theme music. I was playing with the action figures. I pretty much been training for wrestling my whole life. I just went football first and then came into it. So, I mean, it was a pretty natural transition for me.
And it's, especially at the time, breaking in, that's the smarter route to go. And it's kind of what I wished I had done. It's funny talking to you because I was the lifelong wrestling fan. I want to be a wrestler. I don't care about it. I wish I had learned amateur wrestling. I went to Jefferson High School, which anybody in the state of Georgia knows is one of the top wrestling programs.
Yeah.
Didn't step foot on the mat for a second.
Yeah.
Cared nothing about it. I thought, that's the real wrestling. I like the theatrical stuff.
Right.
And the coach knew how much I loved it and would try to recruit me. And still, and now I look back now, I'm like, it'd be kind of nice to have somewhat of a legit background.
Yeah.
And I played baseball because I was lazy. I didn't condition.
Right.
I always tell people if you're good, you run maybe 2 to 3 times a game, and I wasn't good. Football had no appeal to me. I loved it as a fan, but the idea of having to do 2 days and work out when I was 15, 16 years old, I hate it. Now I love it, and it's so funny and ironic because I'm like, I love getting up and going to the gym. Love going to wrestling.
Right.
But, 14, 15 years ago, that just wasn't my lifestyle.
It's funny how things change, and you get a new perspective of life and things you become passionate about. But yeah, man, so just want to keep kind of moving forward, then we can come back to all this stuff.
Absolutely.
So when did you get to the Northeast, and and why did you go?
So I started doing the Ring of Honor tryout seminars in 2010.
Okay.
2010. Right. That's actually how I remember my. 2011. That's how I remember my wedding anniversary.
There you go.
Months before my wedding anniversary. So I went up to the camp and didn't do too well the first day. I was very disappointed in myself. I was 10 years in the biz at the time.
What did you not do well at? How was the camp? Explain it a little bit.
So going in, especially in 2011, you think Ring of Honor, and you think there's a Ring of Honor style, and you want to go and you want to make sure you impress and you do what they're looking for. I didn't go in there and try to work as Matt Sells the first day. It's Matt Sex Sells. It's the rock and roll model. It's everything that I do now. I'm super comfortable with. I thought that they wanted, the athlete and this and that, which is not me. And it's clearly not what I'm comfortable doing. So I did that the first day. Literally went back to the hotel room and contemplated quitting wrestling. Was how pissed off at myself I was. Second day, knocked it out of the park. Did the normal shtick, all my fun stuff. Was over with Cornette. Was over with Kevin Kelly. And they're like, hey, keep coming back to the camps, blah, 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 blah. So went to a couple more camps. They saw that I was improving. I was sitting down talking to my wife one day. We were living in Northeast Georgia. I was teaching middle school. I knew I didn't want to renew my teaching contract that year. So she looked at me and she's like, look, I know you've wanted to do it for a while. If you just want to pack up our shit and we move to Philly and you give this Ring of Honor thing a go, let's do it.
Wow.
So literally she found the job. She moved up a couple days before I did. Packed up all my shit in a trailer behind packed up all my shit in a van, hauled my car behind it. 16 hours later, I was living in Philly.
What a support system right there.
Right,
You got
right.
you a good one, man.
Yeah, no, she started out in the business. We actually met because she was a promoter and a ring announcer amongst other things. So she gets it. Uh, I don't know how anybody has a relationship in wrestling that's not with somebody within the business, because been there, done that, and it's super difficult.
Yeah.
So she gets it. So moved up there because I wanted to train out of the Ring of Honor dojo. I had talked to a couple of my mentors that were within Ring of Honor at that time, like Kevin Kelly, Steve Carino, Brutal Bob Evans, and they were like, look, obviously you're not guaranteed, but you're going to hate yourself if you don't give it a shot. So moved up there and started training out of the dojo. And the first night in the dojo, I was like, holy shit, I really do have a lot I need to learn, even though I'm 12 years in the business or whatever.
Right.
So that's when I really kind of started learning how to work that particular style, meld the Southern Memphis bullshit that I do into the kind of the hybrid Japanese style, into the American, super indie style, and kind of doing the stuff that I do today.
So that's 2011. Is that what you said?
This is 2013. Yeah, 2013 when I moved up there, I believe. I think.
Okay.
I get hit in the head a lot, and I drink a lot, so
yeah,
it gets fuzzy.
So you're moving up there, and I'm graduating college and just starting my journey. This is when I just start training.
Cross paths a lot.
Yeah, this is when I just started training with Josh Massey, Ace Rockwell, which I'm assuming was at Wildside when you first came up there as well, right?
Yeah, Pomp and Circumstance. Yeah,
that's right, him and Tempers. Yeah, that's cool, man. Okay, so now we can kind of start blurring our past a little bit. So you're up there, you're training. Tell me about the dojo and tell me like how they're training you, like the physical normal day. Tell me what's going on.
I always really appreciated it because Delirious I thought was a fantastic trainer, and then after a while, the assistant trainers became Will Ferrara and Cheeseburger. Who Cheeseburger is a friggin' wrestling savant. Like, he was greener than goose shit when I first met him. But within 6 months, like, he just picks up shit like that, and eventually opened his own training school. But it wasn't a whole lot of conditioning because Delirious had the idea that you condition on your own time.
Okay.
But it's not his job to get in there and blow you up. Like, yeah, we'd get in there and we'd do warm ups and stuff, but it wasn't who can do 500 squats and then 500 push-ups and stuff. You were kind of expected to do that on your own.
Right.
So a lot of times it was getting in there and doing. Just some very different kind of warm-ups that were a lot of times kind of Japanese based, a little bit more fleet-footed than the stuff I'm accustomed to. I'm not necessarily the most athletic on my feet sometimes, so that was actually kind of fun. It was fun to have that learning curve because I like being challenged.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times it was some drills where it was a lot of stuff combined together. Like, we had like an arm drill and a leg drill and stuff where you'd have stuff to be able to put in your back pocket in a wrestling match where it's literally like 5 minutes. I'm transitioning from one hold to another that just works the arm. Gotcha. And then having to remember that whole sequence, and then doing a whole shine sequence, and then a whole heat sequence. And they were big on doing like heat drills where they did that in the camp a lot too, because the belief was that you could see everything you need to see about a person if you run heat for 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You're the baby face, you know how to sell, you know how to make sure you're coming back at the appropriate times. If you're a heel, the pacing, the being able to call hope spots to the baby face, things like that.
Yeah. So you weren't really working matches, you were working more the different spots inside of a match.
They would do the spots and do the drills, and then we would do practice matches on the fly most of the time. So that was always really cool, especially depending on who's at training.
Yeah.
Being able to do, sometimes wrestle for 20, 25 minutes with Delirious or Rhett Titus or guys like that who were obviously where I wanted to be within the company. That helped out a lot. And
right.
It was kind of on the job learning.
So where did that lead you as far as in the Northeast and Ring of Honor?
So I was part of the ring crew after that. So that it was a nice paid position. Instead of having the old school, having to show up and do it for free, which I had done plenty. Anytime Ring of Honor was around Southeast, I would show up and be that helping hand and try to get that spot. And had worked for them a little bit before. I'd had some dark matches. My debut actually ended up being on TV against R.D. Evans. So ended up on the ring crew, would do the crew, set up the ring, all that good stuff, and then a lot of times be in darks or squashes and things like that. And then tear down the ring and then make it to the next town. So I was working shoot jobs and then going on the road, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday a lot of times, making all those towns and then back at it.
So you're making money at this time in pro wrestling, but not
I am,
really
yes,
doing
yes.
like what you thought you'd be doing once you started when you were 16, 17 years old.
I was getting a paycheck and having to file my taxes as a professional wrestler.
Well, that's cool though. That's a different experience as well. So, all right, where did that kind of max out in the north to bring you back down to Georgia?
So it was always the plan that it was like a 4 or 5 year plan. It was basically kind of treat it like wrestling college.
Yeah.
I wanted to go up there and see what it was going to be like. And obviously the goal was, okay, I go up there, I get a spot, prove myself, prove my worth. They think I'm awesome. I'm upper mid card, and I can move back to Atlanta, and they'll fly me everywhere.
Yeah.
And I kind of reached the ceiling. I was doing really well, and actually was told one night at training by Delirious, you're fucking killing it. Keep doing what you're doing. The next night, over rotated on a monkey flip, landed on my feet and completely crushed my ankle. Went to the ER. That was fun because they had the Ring of Honor dojo was on the second floor of a warehouse, so they had to carry me down the stairs. I called my wife. I'm like, I twisted my ankle training. I'm going to the hospital. And she goes, like, fuck, you twisted your ankle. I know you. Like, you wouldn't be calling me if you twisted your ankle. And like, another wrestler got the phone. I was like, oh no, his foot's turned around backwards. So I was calm the whole time. And so when I get there, they're not thinking it's that big of a deal until the nurse walks in and looks at my foot and literally goes, holy shit, I'll get you some morphine. Like, yeah, it's much appreciated.
Oh wow.
So they set it, and I go to a surgeon, a sports surgeon, and she's like, look, I'm not doing the surgery because I don't think you're going to walk correctly again, much less wrestle. She's like, we're going to send you to a trauma specialist, and we're going to treat it like you were in a car wreck. It's no longer a sports injury. So he looked at the x-ray, and he was like, yep, I don't know how you did this. It looks like you jumped out of a third floor window and landed on your feet. That's what it's equivalent to. So they did the surgery. Initially thought it was going to be like an hour and a half surgery. 4 hours later, I was out of surgery. It had fragmented in so many little pieces, and because of the dislocation, they had to go and like suck every individual piece of bone out of there, reset the foot. So 2 plates and 11 screws later, I had what would eventually be a functioning ankle. I was non-weight bearing on crutches for 4 months, and then 7 months later was actually back in the ring.
Wow. So dedication, getting back to your passion. Was that the motivation to kind of speed the recovery up?
Yeah, and it was one of those things where I thought it was taking too long. But yeah, no, it was as soon as I got hurt, it was, the first question I always ask a doctor is, how quickly can I be back in the ring? Tore my ACL several years ago. No, you know that well.
Yeah.
And I told the physical therapist the first day, I was like, I'm going to be back in the ring in 6 months. And he thought it was insane. Back in the ring in 6 months. So I'm a very goal-oriented person. So if I give myself a date, then I like to be there. And the ankle was actually longer than the date I set, and was getting frustrated. And I actually went to the doctor one day, and I was like, worst case scenario, I go to training tonight, and I start wrestling. I was like, what happens? He's like, well, it's completely ill because it might actually be good for you. It might break up the scar tissue. So I went to wrestling training and limped around the ring and eventually got back to where I needed to be.
So when did you leave the Northeast and come back to Georgia?
That was 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. Really? I kind of hit that ceiling with doing stuff with wrestling. I was getting, by some people in the company, they were pulling me out of squash matches because they told me I was above them, but then I wasn't getting anything above that, so it was getting frustrating. So
they were pulling you out of the squash. You weren't doing any more jobs, but you weren't getting any more jobs.
They didn't want me to job because I was clearly above a jobber in a lot of people's eyes, but then I wasn't anything above that in some other people's eyes. It was a problem with kind of booking by committee. So I talked to Delirious by phone one day, and was like, look, what can we do? He's like, we actually were just having a booking meeting. We need a backstage interviewer. And we think since you can talk and you can cut a promo and you go with a mic in your hand, like, you'd be a good backstage interviewer. So I started doing that. And on paper, I was like, okay, this is cool. What I'll do is I'll be a backstage interviewer. I'll be on Ring of Honor television every week as a backstage interviewer, and then I can double my indie booking fee. Because I tell people I'm on Ring of Honor television. You see my face every week. You kind of have to.
Yeah.
The problem is they didn't have a lot of juice behind it. The first segments I filmed, it was great. I had a producer. I was getting coached, and we were filming with good equipment and everything, and then they didn't use it. And we did that a few more times, and they would use it periodically here or there. And then eventually it became, hey, find somebody with a cell phone and produce your own segments. And then they were very rarely getting used. So I saw the writing on the wall.
So tell me this: is this what inspired the Matt Lana episodes around that time?
Yep, you are absolutely correct. The first Matt Lana episode was actually done as a tongue. It was going to be the first episode. And I've posted it since, but all I was going to do was one. I was going to do a promo in the style of "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia," and it was me on the phone with somebody, whomever, putting myself over, drinking beer, going, "I guarantee this year you're going to see Matt Sexcel's in the Ring of Honor Top Prospect Tournament." And it was Matt's not the Top Prospect Tournament, and cue the music and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I showed it to a few people within the company, and they were like, "Yeah, maybe don't post that because you might get some heat." Because
Right.
it was coming from a real life place of frustration, but I thought if I could make it all tongue in cheek and I'd be okay. So then I refilmed it and made fun of how nobody has a sense in pro wrestling, and that went well. And I was like, okay, if that was funny, let's see if we can do like a couple more. And then I started doing it every week, and people thought it was good. And I was like, okay, let's see if we can do 50. And I did 50. I was like, okay, let's see if we can do 100. Okay, I did 100. 140 episodes now, and it's still running. And if the world hadn't gone crazy recently, I'd be doing it kind of more consistently. Because I like to try to have it as like an escape for people to watch, and I thought it was getting kind of too COVID heavy. And there's only so much I can film with me sitting around by myself talking to my cats and stuff. So,
Yeah.
Not being on shows and not being at training, it was difficult to try to do it. But when everything gets back up and running, I'm planning on it staying nice and consistent and doing every Thursday afternoon, just like it has been for the last 3 years.
Yeah, man, kudos, because those are hilarious. A lot of them are great. I knew you from those.
You would not be surprised the number of times I hear that, even at wrestling shows. I have a lot of people come up to my merch table and go, "I didn't know who you were until like my friend showed me this," and he's like, "I'm a fan now." I had one fan. I remember when I first started doing it, maybe 20 episodes in, I had somebody come up to me and he specifically goes, "I want you to know that the first time I saw you in the ring, like I wasn't impressed." He goes, "But I saw the videos." He's like, "I think you're funny and I love the self-deprecating humor." He's like, "I'm a lifelong fan now and bought 2 shirts."
Yeah, man, it's just cool. Nobody else is really doing it, and it was your own thing. And you had like names, that were making cameos, which is kind of what I kept tuning in for there when I was checking you out. It's like, man, you got Cody Rhodes on the show. You got the Young Bucks on the show. I mean, you're doing some pretty cool things.
Joke, like I'm a star maker. And even like the people that weren't famous at the time, there's so many people that are signed places now that I just grabbed, like, "Hey, you want to be on the show?" So the joke always is with people, I'm like, "Hey, if you want to get signed, why don't you come over here and just do a quick little spot?"
That's pretty cool, dude. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've gotten so many people that to me it's. I was kind of brought up in that way of you don't take a picture with somebody, you don't get an autograph from somebody in the locker room, and I'm still that way, which kind of sucks because I'd love, you see guys in the NBA exchanging jerseys and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that with guys, but so It's Never Sunny in Atlanta kind of becomes my way of making sure I can be a fan without being a fan.
Getting your fan rub right there.
Yeah,
I'm the same way. I'm not a picture taker with the guys,
And I'd love to be, but like getting to go up to Scott Steiner and then Scott Steiner saying, yeah, he would do it, and then asking for direction and then wanting to watch it after we were done to make sure that I liked it so we could refilm it again if I didn't. Like, that was pretty damn cool.
That's really cool. And it shows you what type of guy he is,
Right. And I grew up a huge Scott Steiner fan. So that was
who didn't? Who didn't grow up a big Papa fan,
No, of course.
All right, so we're out of the Northeast now, and we're back into Georgia. So that's like 2 years ago, roughly.
Yep.
So literally, I'm meeting you as you're coming back to Georgia. Was Action one of your first shows?
Yeah. I think maybe that might have been one of the shows I remember because I came back and I remember unpacking one day, and as I'm unpacking, I'm unpacking stuff with one hand and I'm on my phone with the other, and I've just got promoters and bookers contacting me. And I'm going ahead and setting up my schedule as I'm unpacking. I think Matt may have been one of the people that was contacting me that day. So I wanted to make sure I had a full schedule as soon as I was back.
Yeah, okay, so I want to give you a little glimpse of like my thoughts when I met you, because you stood out, and it was like it was just your look. I don't know what it was. It might have been the hair. I don't know what it was, but you stood out to me, and because we were in that library changing, getting ready for the show. I don't know if you remember the little dressing room action. I'm sure it's the same one.
Oh, it's the same exact one.
Same exact one.
It's kind of cool. You got to be able to have that much space.
Yeah, air conditioned. It's cool. Yeah, it's not bad at all. Yeah, but you just kind of stood out, and I was like, I haven't seen this guy around. I don't know who he is, but he seems like he's been doing it for a while. Like you had that. That's how you came off. So you came off as a professional for sure.
That's exactly what I try to do. Like it took me a while to figure it out, but I'm a firm believer if you carry yourself like a star, people will treat you like a star. And then the look I've cultivated is I don't look like a modern indie wrestler. I don't look like a modern professional wrestler. I look like somebody took a time machine to 1985, and I'd be drawing great money, getting brought into your town to put over your champ.
Yeah. So
yeah, my look is unlike anything else right now, and I always make sure it's the bright colors and the glitz and glam of. I'm not the guy in the black trunks doing, enziguris. I make sure I'm that throwback. So, yeah, I stand out.
So now let's fast forward a little bit. AEW is a promotion, and they're a new big hot thing, and Corona happens, and they're doing these AEW dark shows, and the next thing I know, you're on TV.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how that works. I was telling a couple of people that it seems appropriate for the narrative that I've written for myself that I wouldn't have it any other way. It took the end of the world for me to get booked by AEW. So I had done a little bit with them before, like when they did Fyter Fest last year as one of their lead-ins to when they were going to start doing TV. I got to do the little run-in spot as the Batista kid for the Mega and
for the entrance.
And then I was backstage when they were in Atlanta, and obviously I have a good rapport with a lot of guys there that I knew from Ring of Honor. And then QT Marshall runs the Nightmare Factory here in the Atlanta area. That's where I train out of. I met him in Ring of Honor, and when I was going to move back, he was one of the first people I contacted to make sure I had a place to train out of. And obviously he's in a very good position in AEW now. So when everything went down and they were having to do closed tapings in Jacksonville, I got a text from QT, hey, can you take a booking next Wednesday? Yeah,
absolutely.
He's like, all right, be in Jacksonville. So I would drive down there 5.5 hours and got to work a tag match with QT and Dustin Rhodes was the first match I worked.
That's pretty sweet.
To get to cross that off the list was pretty damn cool. And I was back there the next week, me and Sammy Guevara, and got to get a lot of my shit in, and was actually specifically told by Tony Khan, get your shit in. So that's pretty good when you have the billionaire owner of the company telling you that.
Right.
And then, funny enough, I probably non-disclosure, can't say what they were, but I filmed a couple of other matches for them as well. They just were never used because they went back to being able to do live television every week, and just my stuff didn't get used. So I actually say I could put together like a best of Matt Sells DVD with the stuff I've done for major promotions that's never seen the light of day. So.
That's
it's a good
cool.
problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a lot of things and been a lot of places, and it's a bunch of experiences that are going to be memories for you, but that a lot of people don't have in this business.
Right, and you always have to keep it in perspective because it's very easy. For a long time, I was very frustrated with wrestling. It's very easy to get frustrating. I'm sure
I've been there.
Yeah, and you hate it, but you still continue to do it, and it affects what you're doing. But I kind of have to sit back sometimes and go, hey, that 10-year-old kid that wanted to be a pro wrestler, like, you've accomplished way more than you would have ever thought you could have. Like, you would think you're pretty much a badass. And to be able to have kids come up to me at shows and tell me that I'm their favorite wrestler, and I've got actually a custom figure sitting in the background that a fan sent me.
That's cool.
Cooper, who's a huge fan of action, sent me a custom figure. Just to have people emulate it, kids emulating my entrance, or parents sending me videos of them doing my moves and stuff on the trampoline. Like, you kind of lose sight of that at times.
Right.
Like, I'm not the AEW World Champion. I'm not main event WrestleMania. But at the end of the day, I'm making some pretty decent money in pro wrestling, and getting to have some fun calling my own shots like I did last year with doing the losing streak gimmick and everything. So
Yeah,
that's not a bad spot to be in.
dude, that was pretty cool. A lot of people are not humble enough to be able to put that gimmick together and make that work. The losing streak deal. Like, I'm not that guy. I couldn't, but that, like, I feel like that wouldn't even make sense with me.
Right. It wouldn't. And I was in a position where it worked, and I had started, on social media calling myself a jobber and all this and that, and it worked, and it worked much better than I thought it would, because I initially started it. I wanted it to be a heel gimmick. I wanted people, to laugh at the guy that couldn't win a damn match.
Yeah.
And it kind of blew up in my face for a while because people started getting behind it, and then people wanted to see me win. And you would not believe how difficult it was dealing with some promoters that wanted me to go over.
Right.
And I turned down several bookings because they wanted me to go over. I threatened to shoot finishes of pulling the guy on top of me, which sounds insane to say. Like, I will literally put over anybody you want to, but you're wanting me to go over. And I kept getting told, oh, no, you're too over.
It's funny how that works.
But I'm over because I'm under. And so to be able to, across every promotion I was working for, not win a match, it was 80 matches across 14 months or something. Yeah, it was nuts. And in the match that I won at Action, nobody thought I was winning. So it was great. And it was actually my idea. I didn't want to win that match.
You want to keep it going?
I was arguing even till, but it was the right time.
Yeah.
And the reaction in that building, and it legitimately being the biggest pre-sale and the biggest walk-up they've ever done, and it being over fire code, I don't think you can say that, but being the largest crowd they've ever drawn, like it proved that I kind of know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
No, man, that was a great spot. That was a great story, and you executed it perfect. I mean, I
had to get creative with it, because if I just lost every match, it eventually, people are going to shit on you. You're just a loser. You're a jobber. So it'd be stuff like not thinking about, utilizing the closed fist and getting disqualified, or like I slipped on beer a couple of times and got pinned off that after selling my knee, just stupid bullshit. But
yeah.
Stuff the crowd was into. And so by the last 10 matches before the streak ended, people were biting on every falsy that I did. Like, everybody was emotionally invested. Even if I was second 5-minute match on the card, people thought that maybe that was going to be it. So it did what you want to accomplish in wrestling, is generating real emotion and getting people to buy into it.
And it was across different promotions, not just one promotion. So you had people following you and biting. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was one of the highlights of my career, and I've had a lot of highlights, and it's something I'm very proud of as a creator and an artist and an athlete, to be able to say that I managed to get that all together, because it was not easy.
All right, now I want to. That's enough pro wrestling. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about it, but I want to kind of transition to the man of Matt Sells. So, what is it you do on a daily basis, man?
I work in the healthcare industry. I do employee wellness programming, for the lack of a better term, for a healthcare system.
What's the company? Or if you can't,
I don't like putting that.
I got you. That's cool.
I try to keep the lives separate, and that's because, as a former teacher, you would not believe the head. Well, I guess you probably would. The headache that being Matt Sells caused while teaching, and then also the fact that I've done some stand-up and stuff before that. Yeah. So I try to keep them separate, even though I have been in staff meetings where my boss has referred to me as the boozer weight,
right,
and stuff like that. So
so they know.
Yeah, it's a large hospital system in the Atlanta area.
Gotcha. So they support everything. They know everything that you do for the most part.
Yeah, amazingly so. Yeah, it's pretty good, because I've been in positions before where it's, like I said, it's been made difficult. So luckily, I'm kind of able to keep the two separate, and I've got health coaching clients and stuff that know about it. And actually, one of them, it was funny. She sent me an Instagram message when she first figured out what the Matt Sells and Matt Sells.
Right.
She was like, I'm intrigued about the fitness and wellness benefits of beer.
That's cool though, man. How long have you been doing that in Atlanta?
I've had this job pretty close to when I first moved back. So I've been there for almost 2 years. And
okay.
I've worked in the fitness and wellness and health industries in some form or fashion for 13 years.
So training people, personal training?
Yeah, I've done personal training. I've managed corporate fitness facilities. Yeah, you name it.
That's cool. That's really cool. I'd say I went to school for exercise science, and that was my plan was to come out and be a strength coach. That's what I wanted to do.
That was my plan for a while. Yeah.
I had the best relationship with my strength coach in college, and then but for like they're just like anything. Like I thought I was gonna make it in wrestling. Like I had a WWE tryout before I even stepped into a ring. So like my head was thinking I'm going to make it into the WWE. Why wouldn't I? I know the Ultimate Warrior. I'm going to have a WWE tryout. I'm going to make it. I didn't really care about my senior season. I was already like mindset into WWE. Then the Ultimate Warrior dies a month before I'm supposed to kind of meet him down in Orlando for the training. Yeah, bad timing. And then I get down to the tryout, and the first day of the tryout, I broke my neck a couple times in college. So they wanted to see the paperwork saying that I'm cleared to do the tryout. So I missed the first day of the tryout in Orlando. So now I only get to do one day in the ring, and the next day is a promo. So it was just kind of bad timing. So jump straight in, and the next thing you know, I'm behind the curve. I've missed out on some strength and conditioning chances I had to go join some teams like GAs and get in the ground floor of where you're not making any money really.
Right.
But if you play in college, you have a good shot of getting into a good school and building that foundation. And like anything, 8-10 years later, you're probably the head strength coach at a D2, low D1, FCS type school, but at this point, it really doesn't make sense to jump into it. But fitness has always been a huge passion of mine. I'm a guy that I love a plan, love structure, love getting up early and grinding. And you seem like you do as well. I see you posting your Indie Darling photos up about how you got to post it on Facebook or it doesn't count, right? And that seems to be the truth these days. Tell me a little bit about your routine, man, about like what keeps you going and what keeps you motivated and how you set your goals and just kind of your daily routine.
It's nice that you talk about exercise science background. Like I used to teach a certification course for personal trainers. So I have a very diverse background with being able to teach anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, exercise, all the exercise science.
Yeah.
So I train as an athlete, and I train for fun too as well. Like I'm very much the typical, even though I don't necessarily I look like somebody who works out, but I don't look like a humongous athlete, obviously. Thank you, genetics. But I kind of train like the typical meathead way. I like, let me do bench press, squat, deadlift, let me be able to look at those numbers and brag a little bit. But then I also try to make sure I have adequate flexibility training and starting to work more on agility, especially because I'm not athletically gifted by any sense of the word. And on top of the fact of, having a few surgeries and having some injuries and stuff. So I try to train for longevity at this point too, knowing that I've been wrestling for 18 years. I'm 33 years old, which in the grand scheme of things is not old at all. As a pro wrestler who's been doing it for 18 years, I know there's stuff I need to take care of my body. But I try to strength train 5 days a week. I try to make sure I'm doing cardio 45 days a week. And then as much flexibility training as I can do. I hate doing it. Typical, again,
right.
Let me lift. Don't want to do cardio. Don't want to stretch. And then as much recovery stuff as I can do, sports massage if I need it, cryotherapy, all that good stuff.
Well, I think the hardest thing is about being a pro wrestler is traveling, especially if therefore I haven't done it as long as you. I mean, like I'm very fresh in wrestling. I talk as if I'm not, but like I got kind of thrown into the fire with all the good guys. So like, I've only really been in the ring 4 or 5 years tops, off and on with some injuries. So like, but I've always kind of been like on the cards I was at. I was always near the top or like wrestling some of the top guys. So I didn't have it was sink or swim. I didn't have a chance to like learn. I learned each week. I never trained. I always tell the story. Like I trained for a couple weeks, maybe a month or so, but only a couple days, like a week out of that month. And then I was main eventing my first match ever. Like that's
right.
just
you are blessed and cursed at the same time.
Yes.
You look like a wrestler. So
yeah.
It's great that you're going to get the main event money and the main event push, but at the same time, it's doing a major disservice to you.
Yes.
You're like, holy shit! I could have actually learned and been prepared for this.
Yeah, I mean,
you look at guys in like the territory days, like guys weren't main eventing in champion until they were 35, 40 years old because that's when they finally seasoned and knew what they were doing.
Yeah, but and like you said, blessed and cursed at the same time. But fortunately enough, I was in there with guys like Sean Tempers and Ace Rockwell, guys that are going to, train me kind of as we go. So I was always in there with good people. But like that, I think that ruined my outlook of professional wrestling and I've been able to kind of humble that a little bit. I mean, I'm sure you know about the whole thing about the comments about Marco Stunt and everything, and I can't take anything back that I said. I've said it obviously, but like I was going through a rough patch there. I mean, you talk about getting frustrated with professional wrestling after an injury, or thinking that you should be getting something that you deserve and then not really getting that push like you were talking about up in the north. Well, me, the same thing. Like, I was traveling around doing my little loop Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, working 40, 60, 80 hours a week doing logistics during the week. So I had a good job and I was doing that. I had people that supported me, but also had people being like, why are you doing that thing over there, only making, 50, 60, 70, $100 to go to Chicago, New York, D.C. People didn't understand, like, why I was doing things. But in my mind, I'm goal-oriented, and I'm coming from an athletic background, and I'm pursuing this path. And then when I got hurt, for the first time in my life, I had nothing. Like, I just had work. I was a normal person for the first time, and that's when the frustration came along.
This pro wrestling basket, and then when it doesn't pan out the way you want it to do, it's very easy to be a miserable human being.
Yes.
And you don't realize it as you're being that miserable human being. Like you're talking about now, you're saying you were in a rough place. I'm sure you didn't know you were in that rough place.
I didn't.
I didn't realize how much of a frustrated, miserable prick I was for several years.
Right.
Until I wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
And then, it ebbs and flows, and you think about it, and it's just it's a fucking awful place to be in, and an awful headspace.
Yeah, and I contribute a lot of kind of finding myself and finding my way back out of it. Personal development. I am such a huge fan of personal development, and listening to motivational things and reading motivational books, and like from all the self-help gurus. That's kind of what I've like indulged myself in over the past year. And that helps you kind of pull things out. Do you have anything that you go to that just kind of pulls you out of a funk whenever you get in one?
My main thing is trying to find a constructive way to deal with it, and that's where It's Never Sunny in Atlanta came from. And a lot of my favorite episodes, it always kind of throws people off. I always tell people they come from a very dark place. So some of the funnier ones that deal with frustration in wrestling and stuff is because I was extremely frustrated. But if I can find a way to be able to, like I said, be able to laugh at myself and let everybody else laugh with me, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
I like doing stuff that has nothing to do with pro wrestling. That helps a lot. I love going to baseball games.
Yeah, you're a huge Braves fan, right?
I am. So being able to go and hang out with a friend or two, or even just by myself. I love going to games and just buying a couple of beers and sitting there and just enjoying the game, because I'm a humongous baseball fan, or I'm a huge fan of just sitting and playing video games. I love that because I have to fixate on the video game. I can't think about anything else.
Right.
And that's perfect. So that way, that's my chill time is, watching baseball or watching a stupid comedy movie or a comic book movie or something that just kind of takes me out of the headspace, not thinking about wrestling. Because if I think about wrestling from in that frustrated space, it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I'm the same thing. I like I'll play the occasional game, but I'm a big UFC fan, so I kind of that takes up my headspace on the weekends.
That's
now.
perfect.
Now I think we also share something else in common. You're a big Batman fan, right?
I'm a humongous Batman, as you can see from all the animated series ink I have all over. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you thinking about the current state of the Batverse right now? Because we've got Robert Pattinson, who's going to be playing Batman. We got Ben Affleck doing the new Snyder cut, and also the rumor of our Batman coming back, Michael Keaton coming back as Batman in the new Flash movie.
Robert Pattinson, I was okay with until he said in that interview recently that he wasn't working out at all because he didn't want to set a bad precedent. And
I lost my mind on that.
Yeah, so you're like, I understand not wanting to have people think you have to be a certain body type for this or that. Like, I understand that, but if you're playing fucking Batman, like, we've seen all these different, like, Christian Bale like killed himself in the gym to look the way he did.
Yeah.
Like, Batman has a certain look, so why are you saying that?
Right.
I thought Affleck, going back to guys who busted their ass to look a certain way, like Affleck was great.
Crushed it.
I thought Affleck was fantastic. He was as close to like the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns Batman we're going to get on screen. So
yeah.
I thought he was awesome, and I hated that he's not going to be there anymore. And then, of course, to be able to see like a multiverse version of Michael Keaton's original '89 Batman, fantastic as well. Like he killed it. There's not really a whole lot of Batman actors I've hated. Like George Clooney, I thought was a pretty decent Bruce Wayne. He's a shitty Batman. And
That's what I said. I think George Clooney was the best Bruce Wayne, but not the best Batman.
Because Bruce Wayne was play George Clooney.
Yep.
It was perfect. Just a billionaire playboy. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And I thought Christian Bale was pretty good, even with the
stuff
we like to make fun of now. And so they all have their different stuff. I'd love to see them to be able to bring different Batmen into the multiverse, because I think what DC needs to do with their cinematic universe now is just to go as batshit insane as possible.
Yeah, bring them all together.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job. I thought Birds of Prey was fun. I thought Joker was so different of a vibe than what you normally used to see in a comic book movie. So instead of trying to do the typical superhero movie that obviously Marvel's done such a good job with, just get insane with it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm a huge fan of the original Batmans, though. So if I see a gray-headed Michael Keaton get back in the bat suit and play like because we haven't seen an older Bruce Wayne, mentor the Batwing or what is it? Where's the red kind of black?
So you do the Batman Beyond version.
Yeah, I've always said he would be the perfect one to do that.
Oh yeah, and I think everybody because it's perfect. He's like the right age now to do that. To just have him sitting there, calling the shots. But it's an intriguing time to be a comic nerd, definitely.
To get back to wrestling a little bit, I wanted to touch on QT school and the importance of staying in a ring and staying sharp, and just kind of what he means to the guys in that area of Georgia, and how he's kind of transitioned over to his role in AEW. Because I told the story a few weeks ago, I believe. So I met QT in a locker room at GPW when he had just came down after doing his Ring of Honor stuff. I guess he was commentating up there, and I guess he had a little bit of a friendship or whatever with Danny Cage up at the Monster Factory, and then he came down and wanted to kind of do the same thing. I remember him telling me the story in the locker room and me being like, yeah, I've heard these stories from some guys in the locker room, whatever, dude. It is what it is. Just kind of brushing him off a little bit. And then he has this vision, and within 2 years, he's got the One Fall Factory, and he's making everything work. Kind of tell me about your relationship with him and just kind of how that process goes. And are you helping guys out there, I'm assuming?
A little bit. Like I it's a combination of I help, plus I'm there to get better myself.
Yeah.
I met QT that first Ring of Honor tryout camp that I went to, and liked him personally, fucking hated him professionally because he's so naturally gifted. He is so damn good. As you can see, if you watch AEW television every week, you look at him, and he's built decent. Like, he looks like an athlete, but you don't expect him to be able to do the shit that he does.
Right.
He can do literally anything in the ring and wrestle any style. So he got signed out of that camp, and obviously I worked with him some in Ring of Honor, trained with him some in Ring of Honor. And we would travel together some and everything. So he and I had a pretty decent relationship from there. So came down here to train at the school and started training at the school. And it keeps me on my toes to make sure, not only am I helping kind of that younger generation that's asking me questions and stuff, but I'm there as a student or a trainee too, and learning stuff from him. He's a hell of a teacher and a hell of a coach. And he's no bullshit. Like you said, talking to the locker room, you talk to 5 million people in the wrestling, but I'm going to start a school and I'm going to have him to this company and I'm going to get you signed and blah, 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 blah. But I got those AEW spots because I trained at the Nightmare Factory, playing something. He has connections. Obviously, you see him on television, all the time, or AEW Dark or anything like that. So he's doing a great job of crafting some of the next generation of professional wrestlers, especially in the Southeast and in the state of Georgia. Because I used to always tell people when I was in the Northeast, I had people from Georgia contact me and go, what's a good place to train? And a lot of times I wouldn't have a good answer. And now there's several really good schools in the area in Georgia, but obviously I'm going to go Nightmare Factory #1 because it really is. It's a good training facility. There's 4 friggin' rings. There's a weight room. They've got a nutritionist on staff. They do strength and conditioning. All that good stuff to make sure you're well rounded. Work on promo stuff, which I never really had when I was training. You know, you do it a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, me, that's my bread and butter is the character stuff, and that's what I try to help people with a lot. Is like I did my first seminar back in January, and we literally just sat there for 4 hours and talked, worked on character stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I can show you how to do all the cool stuff in the ring, but there's 5 million more people that can do it better than I can.
Right.
I don't think there's a lot of people on the indies right now that can do what I do better than me. So why wouldn't I pass that on? So it's nice to be able to have people come out of that school, that well-rounded package, and you can turn on AEW Dark or AEW Dynamite every week and see guys and girls from that school that are either there as extras or now they're signed, and that's a testament to how good the training is there. That they're prepped, and some of them 3, 4, 5 years in the business. But I know when I was 3, 4, 5 years in the business, there's no chance in hell I was ready to be on national television. I thought I was.
Right.
And I would have told everybody I was, but it would have been that sink or swim moment, and I would have definitely sunk.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Again, kudos to you for finding your niche and driving it home, really going all in with it, because obviously it's working and it's getting you places and it's putting you in a position of being a mentor to guys that were following in your footsteps, and you're able to share all these cool experiences like we've talked about on the show with them. And that's just so important to be able to do that with the guys coming up, young guys, older than you, whoever's in the business, you can help. And QT school, man, I messed up. That is a huge mistake on my part. I had the open invitation to come to that. I messed up on that one. I just thought he was just like every other guy in the locker room, just
And how would you know?
Right? You wouldn't. And but now it's easy to sit back, and I can kind of see the blueprints of everything. It's very easy right now for me to sit back and say, if you're in this surrounding area, let's just call it 100 miles from Atlanta, you need to be trying to get into that school, because that is the blueprint for success to get onto a national program, a TV program such as AW. And you're learning from guys that have done it. You can follow those footsteps. Anything that you do, I think that you got to find somebody, a mentor that has done what you want to do, and it makes that plan so much easier just to follow what they've done. And I think that if I wanted to jump back into it like full steam ahead, ready, that's what I want to do. I would have to move down to Atlanta and do a training camp and just try to get back in good graces. And one thing I'm kind of sour about is, and I really want to hear like what you kind of thought about me when you heard some of the comments, because I'm trying to like go back through and just kind of like apologize to people, because I don't want to stay as this guy. What did you think when you saw the comments about what I said about Marco and how it came out, and kind of how the overall reaction was? Be blunt.
No, and I will. And unfortunately, I don't ever give the answer in situations and questions like this that people probably want, because it's not going to be very blunt. I'm a big fan of there being a gray area of everything. I don't believe in black and white with pretty much anything, especially in pro wrestling. I see where you're coming from, whereas I also see where fans of Marco Stunt are coming from. 30 years ago, some of the shit that I do in the ring would have had no place in pro wrestling. And there would have been guys in your position that would have been saying the same thing about me that you said about Marco. I would be inclined to disagree with the comments you made. I don't hate you for them, but at the same time, I also see where you would be coming from with that.
Yeah.
So like it's the old bullshit adage they always tell you in pro wrestling. It's flavors of ice cream. Right. If you don't like Matt Sells humping somebody's head, you'll like Gunnar Miller taking somebody's head off because he's a fucking badass. If you don't like Gunnar Miller because he's a badass, you'll like Marco Stunt because he's 5 foot nothing and an everyman. And to me, that's always the great thing about a wrestling card, is that the old carnival stuff of it. Of if you don't like the elephants, you'll like the clowns. If you don't like the clowns, you'll like the trapeze. Like, no, I'm not a lucha fan at all. I don't understand lucha. I don't like the flippy stuff. I'm not going to necessarily hate on it. It's just, if I'm watching a wrestling card as a wrestling fan, I'll go, no, I'm not going to watch the lucha stuff. I'm going to watch the Matt Sells match because I like comedy. Or I'm going to watch Iceberg versus Gunnar Miller because I like seeing two hosses go at it.
Yeah.
So that's the great thing to me about pro wrestling is you don't have to like all.
Yeah.
Of it. Especially now, there are so many different styles. Like if you don't like Marco Stunt or you don't like X, Y, or Z in AEW, cool. Watch WWE. You don't like WWE, watch Impact. You don't like Impact, watch New Japan. There's so many different avenues to watch with it. So I don't fault you for what you said. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it, but that's the great thing. We don't have to agree. It's not your wrestling. It's my wrestling. My wrestling might not be yours.
Right, and I guess that's the biggest thing. Like so many people just jump to the conclusion that I was such an asshole about it and just completely just like
you had an opinion.
Threw me up. And these are like and what bothered me was like it was guys that like I was cool with in the back and like promoters that I was cool with in the back that have completely just thrown me off course. So
and that's unfortunately the age of social media.
Cancel culture.
You can say I like Coors Light, and I'm like, fuck you. I like Miller Lite. How dare you?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit at the end of the day? You're entitled to your opinion. As long as it's not some awful hate-filled thing, like you weren't advocating for something awful to happen to somebody or anything. You said you didn't believe somebody belonged somewhere.
Yeah.
Like that's your opinion.
Yeah.
And you're entitled to that.
Yeah.
And if people are entitled to disagree with you in a constructive manner.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And hey, I take constructive criticism as well as just about anybody. So I didn't bother to that. It was the fact that people like, attacked my character over it as a person.
Like the people that attack your character have no right in doing that. Like if you go, I disagree with you and here's why, that's one thing. It was like, fuck you, you're an asshole. No, you're not. You had an opinion.
Yeah, it is what I was kind of curious about because you seem pretty level-headed and pretty intelligent and. Not to say there's not got a lot of guys that I've ran across in the locker room that are like that, but like obviously, if you can have a conversation with somebody for an hour that you barely met, you have to be able to come up with some talking points for yourself.
I love Marco from a personal standpoint. I love what they do with him on AEW Dynamite. I love the position he's in. If you don't, like, who am I to argue with that?
Yeah.
I don't think it makes you any more or any less of a person for saying that. You put your opinion out there.
Yeah. Well, the couple times I met him, dude, he was cool. I like Marco. Yeah. It was fine. Anyways, I'll get off that. I just wanted to kind of see where I got. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of see where you were at on that whole spectrum, just because after talking to you, I can obviously tell that you can put together some constructive thoughts, and that's cool. Be able to talk to somebody like that. So what else do you have coming up, man? What's up on the radar?
Actually, speaking of Action Wrestling is running July 18th in Tyrone. That'd be nice to be back there. Southern Fried Championship Wrestling out of Monroe, Georgia is back up and running starting August 1st. I'll be there August 15th, and looks like every first and third Saturday going forward since I'm one half of their tag team champions, so it might be good for me to show up. August 1st in Augusta, Georgia, Livewire Championship Wrestling is running. I've worked with them for a long time. Currently in line to be the number one contender for their championship title. So building to August 29th there with their Recharge show, which is kind of their mega event they do every year. That'll be the main event. Me challenging Jeremy Cruz for the Livewire Championship.
Sweet.
Plenty of other shows coming up, I'm sure. It's nice that stuff's kind of starting to get rolling a little bit again.
Yeah.
It's really nice being able to contact promoters, and then promoters contact me and going, hey, my book's filling up.
Yeah.
It was really cool when I was at Anarchy Wrestling a couple weeks ago to be back, even if it was outside the Landmark Arena, but getting dressed in that locker room and getting a nice reception from that crowd was really fun.
Yeah, we're starting to see some sports going back into camp in July. Potentially going to see some football, some baseball, some basketball. Golf is around, NASCAR's around, UFC's been running. So some things are coming back. Pro wrestling might be getting some crowds back. So that's
great.
That's good. Bunch of positive things happening out there. Hopefully we don't get shut back down during the winter months, because that's when the viruses are obviously going to come back, since it's pretty seasonal, kind of like the flu, we're starting to think. But hopefully, man, everything works out for you moving forward for the rest of the year. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to the show, man. I had a blast talking to you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
I'm sure we'll get you on again if anything else cool pops off. If you get on any more some national TV appearances or whatever you got going on. If you ever want to plug something, hit me up and we can come on here and do that.
I'll plug social media right now too.
Go ahead.
Give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram. It's at All Cells Final, ALLSELLSFINAL. You go to facebook.com/rock and roll model. That's my nice little fan page there. youtube.com/MattSexCells. That's where you can find the first 140 episodes of It's Never Sunny in Atlanta. Plus, there's some other bonus footage and stuff there. That's where I post a lot of matches as well. You'll periodically find new episodes there now. And when the world goes back to normal, I plan on every Thursday finding a brand new episode of It's Never Sunny in Atlanta. If you want a good laugh and a nice little escape for 1 or 2 minutes. So by all means, shoot me a message on any of those platforms if you're looking to buy some merch. You've got the lovely It's Never Sunny in Atlanta tank top here. I love my merchandising. I have some great people doing some designs for me. Shout out to Jeff Brown, who does all my designs. Mudret Print Shop and Motivate Me Apparel, both print out my shirts. So by all means, contact me and be able to rep some merch when you show up at all these shows that are back up and running.
Yeah, man. Again, hey, thanks for coming on. You did a great job. Had a blast talking to you. I'm sure I'll see you around. If I see you in the locker room, we'll talk longer than 30 seconds because obviously we built some rapport now. All right, man. So I'm going to take this episode home. All right, guys. That was Matt Sex Sells. What a fantastic conversation. That guy is really doing some great things and just a pretty level-headed guy that seems very intelligent. Also has a great a shoot job along with pursuing a career in professional wrestling and been doing it for a long time. So you young guys that have been out there, check him out, check out his stuff. Make sure you're giving him a follow on all the social media handles, and let's do it. Let's do the good thing and support a fellow professional wrestler. This was episode 26, Chat with Gunner. Make sure you're going over to Apple Podcast, leaving us a 5-star review. Also saying a little something in the comment section. You don't understand how much that helps us. Yes, we've got several 5-star reviews, but we need some more. I'd really like to hit that 100 mark pretty soon. Head over to Spotify, which is the second largest podcasting platform. Make sure you're listening there. Also go to YouTube, Chat with Gunner. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, leave a comment, do whatever you can, help out the show. We really appreciate you watching, listening. It means a lot, and we will see you next week on Chat with Gunner, episode 27. See you, Matt.